Hi, it's Dov, and I want to share a little bit about temptations and what people sometimes call triggers and what to do about them because the discussions come up today on our WhatsApp group. Um, I want to first just talk as briefly as I can about triggers. Try to do Try to deal with it like a hot knife cutting through butter instead of scooping out little bits. I'll do the best I can. Please, if you disagree, you don't understand what I'm saying, you think it's against what the big book says or something, let me know. Please, let me know. We'll discuss it. And that's where the truth will come out for both of us, I believe, um, not in me pontificating about something. So, um, Bill in the big book says if you want to know if you're an addict, go to your nearest bar. If you're one of us, go to your nearest bar. We have a simple test and order a few drinks. And he doesn't say, and try not to drink them. Try to see if you can go without. He doesn't say that. He doesn't say, go to your nearest bar and try to sit there without drinking. No, no, no. He says, order a few drinks and drink them. He's not playing, he's dead serious. And see if it changes the way you are. He doesn't mean like 100 drinks, he means a couple of drinks, alcohol that you know you can handle, and see if it changes the way you behave over the next couple of days, the next few hours. See if you go into a cycle of drinking, you end up drunk again. See if you get into a cycle so that over the next couple of days you decide, well, I drank some before, now I'm going to I'm going to have 50 shots and get smashed. Or see if how you start looking at your life changes. You fall into a big depression, or no, all the relationships in your life start to collapse. And see if that happens. Okay. And then Bill said, or not. If it doesn't, you're not one of us. But Bill says an interesting thing. He says, try it more than once. That's what Bill says, because he knows that trying it once won't necessarily prove that you're not an addict, because you might be an addict, even though you could drink, have a couple of drinks, go home and everything was fine. You might still be an addict. He says, because sometimes we have power over it. So sometimes we have power over alcohol. We can actually use it sometimes safely, which Bill says elsewhere in the big book. That famous part which people quote about not having power against the first drink, even. Bill says clearly, occasionally, on occasion, sometimes, we don't even have power against the first drink. He doesn't say the definition of an alcoholic is that he don't have power over the first drink. Doesn't say that. He says sometimes. So So that's why he says try it more than once. Because just because you could get away with drinking one time and you didn't end up drunk, you didn't end up changing, like becoming like a werewolf and changing into something else, you didn't end up trashing your family and your relationships and becoming insecure suddenly at your job and going into a tailspin again. Um, okay, just because that happened once doesn't mean that you're not one of us. Give it a few tries. Give it more than once, he says, and see if you see that in general you can drink and it doesn't change you. Then okay, you might not be one of us. Okay, but if drinking changes you, then you're one of us, because powerlessness over alcohol doesn't mean the powerlessness against alcohol. It means powerless over alcohol. It's Our problem is our weakness regarding alcohol. That's half of the alcoholism right there. That's one half of the alcoholism right there. A doctor's opinion. There's two parts: the obsession over alcohol. That's part one. The second part is this that Bill's referring to here: unable to drink like a gentleman. That's not about the obsession over alcohol. That's about just being sick. That's alcoholic. We were alcoholic. That's what alcoholic is: an inability to drink like a gentleman. I can't handle alcohol because when I drink, I change. Okay, so I'm powerless over alcohol. When I drink alcohol, it changes me. I don't have power over it. Okay, I myself am not an alcoholic. I have power over alcohol. Okay, I have power over many things, thank God. Okay. There are many things I don't have power over, but alcohol is one of them. I do have power over alcohol, even though I'm a sexaholic. So and I can prove that, you know. Um, if I prove it over and over and over the same day, I'm going to get drunk. So I don't do that. Um, but anyway, moving on. A person, therefore, who's walking around the street, let's say you're a sexaholic, same thing goes for lust and porn. Normal person can enjoy porn. Okay? Doesn't matter what your religion is, doesn't matter if it's evil, doesn't matter if it's sinful. Okay? Nature, not God, nature forbids an alcoholic from drinking. Okay? Not God. God isn't concerned with an alcoholic's drinking. Okay? Nature is concerned with an alcoholic's drinking. Nature itself abhors a vacuum, they say. Well, nature itself makes it impossible for an alcoholic to successfully drink. When an alcoholic drinks, for whatever reason, it's because the alcoholic is a sick person. When an alcoholic drinks, nature ruins the alcoholic's life. It's just a natural fact. An alcoholic cannot successfully live while drinking. If we drink, we will die. You know, it destroys our life. So we need to abstain from alcohol because we don't have the ability to successfully control it. That's the powerlessness. The other half isn't powerlessness. God never relieves us of that powerlessness, right? It doesn't say anywhere in Alcoholics Anonymous that God gives us power over alcohol. If we had power over alcohol, we'd be able to drink. Then why do we celebrate sobriety so much? Shouldn't we be able to drink now like normals? Isn't that what three-quarters of the psychological world and even much of the religious world even touts as success in alcoholism, that you can now drink like a gentleman? It's true. That's what they believe is, that's what many of them believe is success. So why doesn't AA 12 steps go with that? Why do we all believe in abstinence? In whatever fellowship we're in, we believe in some form of abstinence, right? In SA, Sexaholics Anonymous, we believe in abstinence from lust, which is sexual erotic fantasy, basically. So that's what we're abstaining from. So then, so then why? Why don't you just control and enjoy it like everybody else once you have quote unquote recovered? This is why many of us don't use the term, choose not to use the term recovered, because recovered has an implication that now we can drink like a gentleman, but we see we can't. We know from our experience, our collective experience, that it's not true at all. In fact, quite the opposite is true. Our powerlessness increases even if we're recovering. Even if we're recovering successfully and we're sober for years, our powerlessness over alcohol increases. When an AA, after 25 years of sobriety, drinks, they often die. Same thing with a sexaholic. When they act out, they become suicidal or they go off the deep end, and it's horrible. Why? Because their disease in this respect was progressing. So moving on, um, the the problem of obsession over sex, obsession over alcohol, okay, that that's a problem that God relieves us of. We know this. God relieves us. He can dispel the obsession one day at a time, depending on our spiritual condition. And it's not literally one day at a time. The idea of one day at a time, meaning the day, 24 hours, was just chosen because it's utility, it's useful that we divide our time up into days. But it means, depending on our spiritual condition at that time, you know? So we just call it a day by convenience, obviously. So God can dispel the obsession depending on our readiness, our willingness to accept what? What? Life on life's terms, the big book says sometimes. And sometimes it says God's will, and sometimes it says life on God's terms, and sometimes it says acceptance is the answer, and all this other stuff, because they're all the same. Honesty, openness, willingness. How? Honesty, openness, willingness, acceptance, admitted to God, ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our wrongs, became willing to make amends to all the people that we harmed. Doesn't mean to get their forgiveness. It just means, it doesn't mean to fix the past. It means to fix the present, to face our relationships with these people, to face the truth. So that's why we need sobriety, because if we start drinking again, we are going to die, because we are going to, we're powerless over alcohol. That doesn't change at all. It becomes even greater. The powerlessness grows. I am far less powerful over lust now than I was before I came into SA. So then doesn't that mean I'm tempted more? No, because that's not what powerlessness means. Powerlessness over alcohol doesn't mean that I can't stop drinking, that I can't resist alcohol. It means that I can't use alcohol. But people don't buy it. And when it comes to lust, they say, well, lust is different. Sure, sure. It's a lie. It's not different in this respect. So if you don't buy it, then just don't bother paying attention to what I'm saying. You don't buy it. Don't listen, don't buy it, forget it. But what I'm telling you is the truth. It's it's normal to every now and then use lust. The only difference with a sexaholic is a sexaholic comes to realize I can't afford to because I'm too sick. So when we go up to heaven, we're not going to have any heavenly reward for staying sober, because we never got sober for ourselves. We never, for God or for goodness. We never stayed sober for God or for goodness. But we did stay sober in order to have a good life and to be good, because we couldn't be good while we were drinking, because it made us crazy and useless and liars and live a double life and have to cover up and remember everything we said yesterday so that no one would catch us and bust us and blow our cover, because then we wouldn't be able to drink anymore or act out anymore. So you understand that it's necessary for us to be abstinent from alcohol. It's necessary for me to be abstinent from lust. I can't look at porn. I can't, go to massage parlors. I can't go to strip bars. I can't do this stuff. I can't do erotic, crazy stuff with my wife and she's not even there and I'm fantasizing, and I can't do that stuff. I can't do that. I have to do things in a healthy way, in a different way, you know? So because I'm powerless over lust, you know? And that's what we do in sobriety. That's why people stay sober for long periods of time, because they're obviously doing something right. They're obviously staying away from lust in some way, okay? So when you go out on the street and the women are walking around, what does Roy say in the big book? In the big book, we gave away our power to others, okay? We went for the connection that had the magic, the chemistry, because it bypassed intimacy and real and true union. What does that mean? The same thing we do in prayer, by the way. Same thing. We go for intensity and spiritual ecstasy and spiritual connection. Oh yeah, God loves me. What about accepts me? That we don't talk about, because that has to do with facts. That has to do with facing ourselves. We'd rather not do that. We'd rather just nuclear option the whole thing and just say, oh, he loves us anyway. Great, but you haven't faced yourself. This program's not about God. It's about you and me accepting God. God's not the problem. God doesn't have the problem. I do. So I go out onto the street, and there's all these, like in the examples the fellow was sharing, there's all these women around, and I work on it, and I surrender, and it's like, but Roy says in the big book, gave away our power to others. What does that mean? Gave away our power to others. Does that mean we gave a prostitute $300? No. Does that mean we followed a prostitute around and did whatever she said and endangered our lives going into a crazy neighborhood? No, that's not what it means. Gave away our power to others means that when we saw pretty girls walking around, we went, ooh, pretty woman. What am I going to do? I'm triggered. What am I going to do? Our whole psyche changed. We gave up on, no, I'm a sexaholic. The program says I'm powerless, right? So I have to go crazy. It's the 11th commandment. The program says I'm supposed to I'm supposed to be powerless. I'm supposed to go crazy about it and not be able to resist it. Oh God, I have to come unto you for help. Wow, that feels religious. That sounds nice. That sounds programmy. That sounds That sounds right. That sounds desirable, like something the program would be interested in me doing, right? God, God, God. There's a lot of religious people in the program, right? They want you to be all talking about God and God and God all the time. So they're very excited about this prospect that you're going to be turning to God in order to save you. Well, now we're now we're getting real religious. Boy, this is a great program. Yeah, yeah, and they'll cheer you on. Okay, only with God can you resist it. And it's all bullshit. That's not that's not what this is about. All they're doing when people do that is encouraging themselves to give more of their power away. It's like throwing down the gauntlet. It's upping the ante. It's making this even a more exciting thing. And every now and then they'll be able to get away with it without acting out. Somehow they'll get on their knees, they'll do some kind of surrender of some kind of religious something, and something will work, and but they're not going to succeed in the long run. They're not going to have a comfortable sobriety. They're going to be depressed all the time, struggling a lot, tension, 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 because they really have given their power away to others. That's all they're doing. Anybody who goes out on the street, oh my God, look at her. Oh my God, look at her. Oh my God, I have to pray for her. I have to do this. I have to do that. And that's all they're doing the whole time on the street. Triggers, 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 triggers. They've sold themselves to lust. And it doesn't matter that they're hiding behind the program and saying, yeah, this is what the program says. I'm powerless. It's a lie. The program says I don't have the ability to successfully use it. Powerless over lust. I don't have I'm not able, I'm too sick to use it successfully the way other people can. That's what the program's telling me. And therefore, I look at the doctor's opinion, and therefore, I need special care. I need to let this stuff go and realize she ain't mine. She has nothing to do with me. My sponsor didn't even like the prayer, Roy's prayer, essentially, of God, whatever it is that I'm looking for in her, let me find in you instead, which I've said many times. And it's a very nice prayer. My sponsor didn't like it so much because he said, well, that's rather self serving. He'd rather me just learn how to laugh when I lusted and when I saw a woman and wanted to follow her and get another look. He would say, I'd rather you learn how to just laugh about it and just say, boy, that's stupid after all the suffering I've put myself through with the porn and lust and cruising and following and, you know, what's that called? Tracking women down, and stuff, following them. After all the trouble that I've had doing all that stuff, and the voyeurism too. And so after all this trouble, and here I am, I'm at the supermarket. I'm supposed to be shopping, and I'm looking at her, you know. So he, oh God, whatever it is that I'm looking for in her, let me find it in you. And then the prayer has to be intense, right? According to the intensity of the prayer, that's what really matters, right? You shut your eyes and squeeze them when you're praying, you're screwed. You're misusing this program. You're giving your power away to others like crazy. You're getting worse. That's not getting better. That's making a giant federal case over what? Nothing. She's not yours. She never was yours, and she never will be yours. Now, if somebody was with a woman and they have a temptation to go back to this woman and this woman's calling them, I understand. They have to learn. Every case has some differences. I understand. But in general, the approach has to be surrender. Surrender isn't something, that's like ripping a chunk out of me. It's realizing that it's not even part of me. Like somebody shared today, wherever you go, that's where you are. It's an acceptance of the truth. She ain't mine. This is not a relationship that's mine. This isn't a person that's mine. Her body parts have nothing to do with me. Surrender, acceptance of the truth is surrender. We have lost the battle. There is no way we can successfully use this drug. It ain't ours. It's not for me. I have no business using it. It's an acceptance of that very sad fact. And it's not a joke. I'm not being cynical. It's sad. Yes, it's acceptance of it. It's a loss. There's a sense of loss. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross said that there are 4 stages of grieving, she believed. It's a very beautiful idea. I might get the order wrong, but there's this denial at first, you know, and people deny that they're grieving over the fact that I can't have this person's image in my head and use it and manipulate it and fantasize over it and masturbate about it over it later, because I'm too sick to do that. It's going to destroy my life. I don't have power over lust. I'm a sick man. I can't use her. There's a certain grieving and pain about that. Well, don't run from it. Accept it. Yes, I'm sad about it. Why am I sad about it? Don't be ashamed. It's because we did it so many hundreds of times. We love doing that. But we pay for it far more than we can afford to because we're powerless over it, meaning it turns us into monsters. It turns us into self-serving monsters when we start using this lust. That's why I can't use it, because I'm too sick. Accept it. It's just a fact. Accept it. She's gone. She's not yours. Accept it. There's this denial. Yeah, but what happens after the denial's gone? Yeah, it's true. I can't use it. I am too sick to use it. It is true. You know? Who says that it's true, by the way? That's your first step inventory. You don't have a first step inventory. You're wasting your time because you're basing your belief that you can't have it on dogma, because other people can't have it. And Harvey says you can't have it. And Bill says you can't have it. And Roy says you can't have it. And the Bible says you can't have it. It's other people's ideas. Your wife says you can't have it. You know, you haven't admitted in your own self that you screw yourself up. You F yourself up because you use it. And you're too sick to use it. Look what happens when you use it. Look how you change. That's your first step inventory. Unmanageability and powerlessness written on paper that you share with other people so that it becomes true to you, and that it's fully accepted and owned by you. That's the SA tradition in step 1. That's what AA does in step 5. Why does AA have a fifth step? Why admit it to God, ourselves, and the main part, of course, another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs? Why? The 12 and 12 says it very clearly in 3 or 4 different ways, because otherwise you won't really admit it to yourself, probably on some level. Every therapist knows that the things that help the patient, the client, are more what comes out of the client's mouth, that the client hears himself saying or herself saying, more than what comes out of the therapist's mouth. That's step 5. Acceptance of self comes through being honest with others. Self-honesty comes as a result. It's the fruit of being honest with someone else. That's where we finally get true functional self-honesty. So that's step 5. That's the AA step 5. That's the SA step 1. That's our tradition. Writing an inventory out of our sexual escapades and behaviors and how we got in trouble, tried to stop it. We leave out how I felt and why I shouldn't have done it and why I think I did do it. That's, maybe you'll write that out in step 4. I don't know, but that's not part of the first step. It's just the facts, you know? Writing all that out, the history in longhand, that's our step 5 regarding lust, and we do that in the first step. That is the engine that drives a person, that makes a person know, I can't have it because I can't have it, not because God says I can't have it, not because the program says I shouldn't have it, or God says I shouldn't have it, or my wife says I shouldn't have it, or anybody says I shouldn't have it, but because of, look what it does to me and to my life. Fine, once you have that, you're going to be okay. You're past the denial. You can look at this person and say, well, I realize that I'm the problem here, not her or him. Okay? That's one. The denial's past. Then there's going to be some anger. Okay? And a person's going to start raging. How many of us had more rage episodes in our first couple of months and years of sobriety than ever in our lifetimes? I'm raising my hand. I did. Then when a person gets through the anger phase, and I was sober the whole time, not perfectly sober, but sober, um, you know. And then what happens when we get through the anger part? There's bargaining. Bargaining How many people tried to bargain with lust after they realized that that they're powerless over it, and they were sober, but they kept bargaining. Maybe I'll look a little bit. Maybe I'll look a little bit. You know, I'm raising my hand. I did. And then finally comes the fourth stage, acceptance. I got that somewhere in my fifth year. That's a peaceful sobriety. That was the beginning of a peaceful sobriety for me. It took me 5 years. Am I a failure in SA? If you think I am, that's fine. And it's been almost 20 years of that now so far. It's been, what, 18 years of that so far. That's wonderful. I'm very happy about that. Had I jumped ship before because I didn't have perfect sobriety, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't. I'd be out there or dead. No question in my mind. So yeah, 4 stages of grieving. Get past the grief, accept it. Now, when you're out there and you see them, if you're still in anger or denial, then get a first step. Go back to your first step. If you have a problem in any step, my sponsor said go back to the one before it. Okay? Get back to your first step. If you're having a problem with anger about it, make a phone call. Admit to someone, I can't have it because I'm powerless over it. That's why I can't have it. And I'm mad as hell. And I feel like I'm cheated. I want her image. I want to look at her image and use her and fantasize and manipulate and consume her image. I want to. Admit it to somebody. Don't say, I'm triggered. Don't say that. You say, oh, I'm triggered. Forget it. You just lost an opportunity to tell the truth. Don't say I'm triggered. Say the truth. I am angry. What does triggered mean? Whoever you say triggered to should do you a favor. No sin in saying the word triggered. It's just a wasted opportunity. Have your friends say to you, please teach them. Teach everyone you know, please. Have them respond to you every time you say triggered and say, can you pick another word for triggered? Just don't use the word triggered. Use anything. I believe you're triggered. Yes, I do. Now, say it in different words, okay? And then you'll say something, I guarantee, most of the time you'll say something that blames her for how you feel. Like, seeing her made me feel like this, okay? And then train your friend to do this for you. They'll be doing you the biggest favor. Train them to respond to you and say, okay, I believe you. However, can you say it to me in a way that doesn't blame her? Just talk about your feelings. Talk about how you respond to it, not how she made you respond. Talk about how you respond to it. Talk about your response. Just do that. And you'll find yourself admitting, I want to look at her so much because I enjoy looking at her. And I can't because I'm too sick to do that because I have a first step and I haven't forgotten it. Why do you think I share my first step so many times whenever I have the opportunity? So why am I giving this talk now? For you or for me? I'm giving it for me so that I never forget the truth about myself. I know I'm going to stay sober because I'm sharing this. So then when you have anger about it, you call a friend and you admit the anger. When you get into bargaining about it and you start bargaining about it, so then admit it and say half measures avail us nothing. In the end, it's just not going to work for me to bargain. That's called, when a guy's bargaining, in the bargaining phase, that's when they say, I'm struggling with lust. There is no struggle with lust. That's like saying, I'm struggling with poverty. I'm struggling with hunger right now. Well, why don't you go freaking eat something? Oh, you don't have money? Okay. All right. That's a separate issue. Your problem isn't really poverty or hunger. Your problem is you don't have a job. Let's get you a job. I'm struggling with poverty. I'm struggling with hunger. The more you struggle with it, the hungrier you're going to get. The more you struggle with it, the poorer you're going to get. You don't get money by struggling. Okay, struggling with lust is just another, it's just code. I'm struggling with lust a lot today. That's code for I'm bargaining with lust. I'm trying to figure out how to include it in my life. Not consciously, but I see in retrospect that's what I'm really doing. A person's actual behavior at the end of the day proves what they really want. Okay, you don't like that? I can't help it. So if you see somebody, if you see yourself saying, I'm struggling with lust today, realize you're bargaining with it. And there's no bargaining. Lust just, if lust had a mind of its own, which of course it doesn't, but if it did have a mind of its own, it would have one objective. It wouldn't be to have fun, it would be to kill you. That's all. There's no bargaining with terrorists, okay? They just want to suck all the money they can out of you, get everything they can from you, and then kill you. That's all. There's no bargaining. If somebody ever jumps in your car and pulls out a gun and says, drive to a secluded area now, don't drive there. Because if you're in the middle of a city and you're in their power enough for them to force you into a secluded area, if you're in their power now, in a public place with people around, just think about how much more you're going to be in their power if you go into a secluded freaking area. They're for sure going to kill you. So, no, crash your car into the nearest light pole, into the nearest police car, into the nearest building. That's what you do. Or you just tell them no. And if they shoot you here, don't worry. They're for sure going to shoot you in the secluded area. Don't worry. And besides, if they're going to shoot you, they would have shot you already. If they would have shot you in this area, they would have shot you already. They're waiting to go to a secluded area to shoot you. Same thing with lust. There's no struggling with lust. So that's what happens when people say, I'm struggling with lust. It's because they're in Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's bargaining phase. Half measures availed us nothing. Acceptance is all there is. That's the prize. When a person says, I've recovered, that's what they're referring to. That they've accepted their powerlessness completely and there is zero doubt in their mind, almost ever. And that's why they have a sobriety of peace. And they go out into the street and they don't go, oh, there's a girl, there's a woman, there are breasts, there's whatever. It's like there's a billboard. Oh. They don't do that because they know. Nothing out there ever made me lust. I chose it because I liked it and I used it over and over and it became habitual and I trained myself to be this way, that I obsess over it. Not the powerlessness that perhaps I was born with, except the obsession over it, I created that. I trained myself for years in that. So it's not about blame, this is about stoicism. If you look up stoicism, you'll find there's a huge difference between blame and responsibility. The program is about individual responsibility through and through. I can speak for the program if I want to in that regard because it's all over the literature. The fact that there's something for you to do at all proves that you had a hand in creating it. Obviously. Otherwise, there wouldn't be anything you can do about it. But there is. There's 12 steps, you know? So, so, um, so when people get all frazzled about, oh, there's somebody pretty, you're thinking about it too much. So then what should you do? So then what am I saying to do? What am I suggesting to do? Okay. I'm suggesting to realize, and this is the part that people will say, this is against the program. This isn't good. I'm suggesting that you realize that thoughts don't really matter that much. They pass through your mind. They come out the other end like crap and they're gone. They're roadkill. They're just thoughts pass through your mind. Big deal. Why does it have to be that this thought that's passing through my mind is entirely different because I'm an addict? They pass through minds of normal people, and then they move past them and move on. They can pass through my mind too. I don't have to go fight them. Guess what happens if you fight it? Well, no, but I'm an addict. I have to fight it. What do you think happens if you start fighting it? This is what everyone's saying. They go out there and they start struggling with lust. You're in the bargaining phase. That's what's happening. You see it, you like it, you start bargaining with it. That's it. You start bargaining with it. That's all. That's what's happening. So there is no bargaining. You ignore it as fast as you can, because it's okay to have thoughts of lust in your head. It's okay to see pretty women. You took a second look, well, okay, it's over now. Why do you have to make it a third and a fourth and a fifth? You know why you have to? Because you're focused and obsessing over the fact that you shouldn't have. You did. It's over. Next. You'll admit that you did it in a meeting later. But right now, you walked past her and you moved on. Why make it into a federal case? Why? Why make it into such a big deal? Because you want it to be a big deal. Because you don't want to just treat her like she's a pretty girl. There are pretty girls everywhere. Next. You don't want to do that. And you make up this BS excuse that, no, it's because I'm an addict. I can't do that. Yes, you can. Yes, you can, most of the time. Maybe not all the time. That's true. But you know what? Right now, you can't do it at all, and that's why you're suffering so much, because every single one is the holy grail. Look, here's somebody I'm powerless over. I have to surrender her. The program says. Bullshit. The program doesn't say you have to give away your power to every single person that goes by because you're an addict. Otherwise, you don't qualify and you shouldn't be coming to meetings. That's not what the program says. The program says laugh. She has nothing to do with you. So you saw her. Great. Next. She was pretty. Oi. What's oi? She was pretty. Okay. I wish you could look at her. Okay, so what are you in the middle of doing? Don't distract yourself from her. Realize that she's the distraction. Realize that her image is the distraction. What the hell were you doing? You were shopping. So then look at your list. There's no women on your shopping list. There's no porn on your shopping list. Remember what you're here for. If you call somebody and you go, "Oh, hi, Sam. I was lusting. I saw a woman in the street, and I'm all thinking about her, and I have to surrender her." It's like you lost already. You lost already. You're taking this thing too damn seriously. Chuck C says this over and over and over. He says, don't make such a serious deal about this life. That's what he says. Rule 62. He brings Rule 62 for this purpose in a new pair of glasses. Because we take ourselves so damn seriously. You had a thought, big freaking deal. Move on. Old Vietnam song from Johnny Cash. It ain't nothing. Roll on. It ain't nothing. It ain't nothing. Roll on. Keep moving. It ain't nothing. Guy next to you blows up in a mine. His guts are splattered all over you. It ain't nothing. Move on. Roll on. It ain't nothing. Roll on. And that's the truth. When it comes to lust, for people like us, just move on. It's okay. And it really is okay. And only when you start to stop making such a big deal about every pretty woman you see will you realize that your early recovery made you far sicker than you were before you were in this program, because you misused this program. And just like you used religion, the two guys who are involved in this, they're both religious guys. And I know for sure, because I'm like them too, before they came to program, why do you think lust and pretty girls in the street were such a big problem for them? Because they're not supposed to look, because they're not supposed to. Not supposed to makes it powerful. Stolen waters taste sweet. It becomes naughty. Ooh, now it's even more tasty. I mustn't do it. And they're misusing the program. They're screwing themselves to death with this program. And they're making up this, I was triggered. What you said was triggered. And now the program says I can't have these thoughts. And what do you think happens to them? They suffer. They just created a monster out of a molehill. I know it's a mixed metaphor, but whatever. They created a monster. Yes, yes, there's a problem. It's not healthy for me. Okay, but I'm at work now and I'm getting busy with my work. It was a mistake. Move on. If you want to make a prayer out of it, make a prayer out of it. Say, God, I took a second look at her. That was dumb. That was dumb. If you say, "Oh, that was terrible. Now I have to repent." That's what we did when we were religious. Oh no, and then you have to do all kinds of different kinds of self who knows what punishments and this and that and fasting and who knows. It's like, what? And you have to bang your chest and you have to do this. It's like all that stuff just made us sicker and sicker and sicker, put it on our mind and sexualized all kinds of things that weren't even sexual. It made us so much weaker because we gave away our power to others because we thought that's what the religion's telling us to do. We have to be good. We made it into a giant fight because that was the only way to hold on to her. And by the way, praying for her, if you use praying for her as your first resort, that's not going to last very well. It's not first aid to pray for her. That's a last resort. That's not a first resort. Because usually when guys pray for her, it's just an excuse to hold on to her image in my mind and her in general, it all in my mind for a little bit longer. I want to hold on to her image in my mind a little bit longer, so I pray for her. That's what's really happening. Praying for her is powerful and it works great, except only usually, to me at least, as a last resort. As a first resort, laugh, smile. And if you think I'm kidding, damn it, smile now. Smile now because it's worth it. Smile and laugh about your lusting. When you're in bed, you have sex with your wife and she's asleep and you start fantasizing in your head, you realize, whoa, I'm thinking about what I could do with her or this or that. Smile. Chuckle to yourself out laughing. You'll wake her up and she'll slap you. Just smile. Learn how to laugh. Listen to a Harvey talk and he'll tell you about how joy and laughter and enjoying life is what this is about. Open up the 12 and 12. Look at step 12 and it's all about joy in life. They're not talking about people who are perfect. You don't have to be perfect in order to do that. No lusting. If I lust, then it's sad life again. Nonsense. Learn how to find joy in the fact that you're still a human being. Learn how to find joy that you had a lustful thought in your head. It's just a freaking thought. Let it pass. You won't let it pass if you bring out the old hyper-religious you that made a giant, sinful, big load about it. And you won't let it pass if you do what you do in the program, which is the same thing you did with religion. You just switched the program for your religion and you used it the same way, turning these temptations into the huge evil of life and it's a big deal. No. What's the common denominator? That it's not about the religion and it's not about the program, it's about you. You're taking yourself too damn seriously. Laugh about it. Look in a mirror and look at your face in a mirror for a second, whether you think it's proper or not. Look in your face for a mirror for a second and smile. Physically smile. You're going to live with yourself till you die, and your body and this face is going to rot in the grave. You might as well be able to smile at yourself. And just be happy. Laugh. Realize you're imperfect. You have stupid thoughts from time to time. Let them pass like roadkill. Let them pass. You're afraid. Ask God for help with your fear to just let them pass. You're angry because you're in stage 1 of your 4 stages of grieving. You're in your denial phase. You're past that. Now you're in your anger phase. Call someone up. Send someone a WhatsApp recording. I'm furious that I can't act out. I'm so angry, and I know I'm going to go to sleep anyway. I love you. Good night. Just send someone a message. Be honest. Say why you're angry, because I trained myself to use this stuff. I trained myself that sex on demand is what I deserve. Whenever I want it, I should have it by masturbating whenever I felt like it. That's sex on demand. I trained myself into being this way. Accept your responsibility and laugh. Now you're not that way. You don't have to be that way. If you trained yourself to be that way, you can train yourself not to be that way. That's not that's not taking power over lust. It's realizing that only you can surrender. Roy says it straight out in the White Book. Writes it straight out in the White Book. You, it's not going to work for us to say, God, take it away so I don't have to let it go. That's not going to work. You know, you can let it go. How do you let it go? By not making a big stinking deal over it. Because it's not about it, it's about you. Don't take yourself so damn seriously. Rule 62 is the core. It's the core. Enjoy life. Accept that you're imperfect and that you make mistakes and that you lust sometimes. That doesn't mean you have to bargain with it. That doesn't mean you have to struggle with it. You can just accept the fact that you do sometimes and let it go, move on. There are other things to do right now. There are. Whatever it is that you're doing. Whatever it is that you were doing before you started distracting yourself with the lust. What were you doing again? Don't distract yourself quickly. Distract yourself quick. That's not the answer. What were you doing? What's life? The acting out, the lusting, the fantasy was a distraction. What were you doing before you distract yourself? Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? You turn this into a federal case. You sexualize situations that aren't even sexual because there's a woman there. What does it have to do with sex? You make it sexual. Because you make it sexual, that's your problem. Learn how to make it unsexual. That's the program. That's the program. Acceptance means acceptance. Surrender means surrendering to the truth. The truth is she's not mine and she's on a bus. This has nothing to do with sex. People are wearing clothes. Yes, we are. All of us. And that's okay. The other side of this, by the way, is complete and total hell. Just want to let you know. The other side of this is hell. The only reason that it's not hell for everybody is because they're too scared to admit it and they're too scared to go all the way. But the other side of this attitude is complete and utter hell, because it's obsessive compulsive disorder to a very horrible degree, turning every single situation into a sexual thing. I was triggered, he triggered me. You're gonna be constantly living as a sexaholic, blaming God for it and living through microaggressions from other people because they're female or they're male or they're handsome or they're pretty or they have a nice sounding voice. They have nice eyes. What are they supposed to do to not trigger you? What are they supposed to do? There's nothing they can do. There's nothing anyone can do. Eventually, life will turn into utter and complete hell. It just hasn't gotten there yet. So to me, there's no other choice than accepting that I'm the one that's giving my power away to others by making a big stinking deal over little things. Yes, I know it doesn't sound proper to say it's okay to lust. Whoa, lust? I thought we're powerless over it. I'm just talking about a thought that passes through your mind, man. You have all kinds of bullshit thoughts, excuse my language. They pass through your mind. So what? So they pass through your mind. Let them pass through your mind and come out the other side. Don't hold them in your mind. Don't obsess about them and fret about them. It's okay. Just move on. Move on without it. Let it pass. Move on without it. You're the one that's holding on to it. You're the one that's making it. No, but I shouldn't. The program said, well, didn't you say that before? The religion says, didn't you say that before? How well did it work for you? Why do you think it's going to work for you better now when it's the program that says I shouldn't? It's not. It's part of a huge sickness. And it makes this program not work for people. I don't want to end on a negative note, but this is the same thing that happens with insane thinking. My sponsor told me a joke. An alcoholic gets shipwrecked from home and life and everything, the only survivor from the ship, and he sees a bottle and he rubs it. A genie pops out, and the genie says, "You have 3 wishes." He could have gone home. He says, "I'm stuck here on this island. In the meantime," didn't occur to him he could have gone home. "I'm stuck on this island. In the meantime, I want a bottle of alcohol, a bottle of booze that can't break." Bing! There he goes. He's got it. And he goes, "Whoa!" And he drinks it, and it's halfway down. And he goes, "Wait a second. I want you to second wish, 3 wishes he's got. I want you to the second wish that it never empties out. It refills itself always forever." And he drinks the rest of the bottle. It fills itself back up. Wow! And then he turns to and then the genie says, "We have one more wish." And the alcoholic says, without missing a beat, he says, "Give me another one. I want 2 of them." So, okay, people think about, you look, in addiction, we think insane thoughts. We think insane thoughts. So then guess what happens to a lot of you? I hear this over and over and over. Therefore, we have to be insane even more. And we have to focus on our insanity. The word insanity isn't used in the program too much. Yes, the first step, the second step talks about God restores us to sanity. It doesn't say sobriety, because it doesn't mean sobriety. It means sanity. Sobriety is subsumed in it. Sanity is much bigger. That's why the 12th step doesn't say, having had sobriety as the result of this program. It doesn't say that. It says, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, because it's not about sobriety. Don't be fooled. It's a big bait and switch. So what happens? You're getting more than you paid for, because your problem wasn't really alcohol. Alcohol was just a symptom. The problem you had was sobriety. It's not that alcohol was unacceptable to you. It's that sobriety was unacceptable to you and me. That's why we need this program, and that's why none of the steps really talk about self-control anywhere. Because the assumption is you're going to leave temptation alone. Just like you're going to leave alcohol alone. You just leave it alone. You don't fight it. You can't struggle with alcohol. You can't struggle with lust. You can't. It's not going to work. It just makes you dirtier and dirtier to struggle with a muddy guy to get him out of here. You just get muddier and muddier. Why don't you want him here? I don't want him to get me muddy. But wrestling with him is going to make you muddier than anything. Yeah. Struggling with lust means that you have to get, how do you struggle with something? You get as close as possible to it and twist it and turn it and grapple with it. Jiu-jitsu. It doesn't work. That's just a trick to lust even more. That's all it is. It's bargaining. Struggling with lust. That's bargaining. Same thing. Struggling with your thoughts. Oh, I had thoughts today. And I walk out of the house and I go, "Please, God, help me not have thoughts." Please, God. Right as soon as you squeeze your eyes, as soon as the prayer is with desperation, you know you've lost. Because you're not casting yourself on God. There's no trust there. It's not going to work. It's self-will invading the program, just like it invaded your religion before. And it didn't work. And the program's not going to work if it's done the same way. It's about accepting life on life's terms, not about fighting lust, not about resisting lust. Accepting life on life's terms means sanity, means, look at my first step. Now, God can restore me to sanity. What's sanity? Accepting the facts and the truth of my first step. I, of all people, cannot use lust successfully. Well, okay. Then if I can't use lust successfully, how would I behave today? Would I walk out of the house and be terrified I might see someone who has breasts? That's what I'm terrified about? Would I walk out of the house thinking and hearing people say things, and if a guy says in a meeting, I had sex with a prostitute, and it's like, and like, oh, he said the P word, prosta. I can't say it. It's too triggering. It's like, oh my God. Oh my God. You're taking it too seriously. Do you hear what I'm saying?